Hello, welcome to this chapter. Here we're going to look at the third and fourth move sidelines of the Italian. That is after e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop c4. Now we've talked about bishop c5 and knight f6 separately. These are the two main moves. Other moves make very little sense separately. But let's look at them one by one. Bishop e7. The idea of this move order is to play knight f6, d3, bishop e7 system, but to avoid knight f6, knight g5, which is something, which is something we don't really play anyway. So against us, this doesn't make sense. We can play just castle, knight f6, d3, and we have the same position. If you want to punish him, you can investigate d4, but it's not so simple. d6, so I don't think we have to go into depth there. f5 is some sort of a terrible Yanish gambit. Is this one against the Spanish? Against Italian, it makes even less sense. Simple d3 is very good, but I also like d4, just the most challenging. After fe4, knight e5, d5, bishop b5, black is in trouble. He's unable to develop with bishop d6 and knight e7, and he has to block his development with knight e7 when after c4 he has problem here, or go queen d6, which is also very uncomfortable. Developing the queen this early is not good. We go c4, a6, takes, castle, then knight f6, knight c3. Next we develop our bishop, and at some point undermine the pawn with on e4 with f3. Bishop e7, bishop f4, queen e6. Now f3, very strong. We want to open the e file after ef, queen f3, castle. Rook e1, just crushing down the e file. Black is not developed yet properly while we are mobilized. After castle, fe, d, queen e2, the e pawn is too weak and it will fall. And black does have the bishop pair, but bishops are so bad, pieces are so undeveloped, pawns are doubled. He doesn't have any compensation for the pawn here. f5, not good at all. Knight d4 is a very bad move, but you have to know that you shouldn't go for the natural knight e5. After queen g5, already white is in trouble. And knight f7 leads to a spectacular checkmate, queen g2, rook f1, queen e4, bishop e2, knight f3. This is a very nice one. But of course, we are not so naive. We take on d4, e4, and castle. Knight f6, we play rook e1. e5 is coming, so black has to waste time on d6. Bishop is not developed, not out of the pawn chain. And after c3, white is winning. If knight c3, d4, we are just much better, but queen b3 is just a kill, threatening to win the f7 pawn, and after queen e7, then knight c3 and d4, just crushing. Yes, knight d4 is something that I decided it's a horrible move, but I wanted to include it because, yeah, if you lose like that and then you ask for a refund, I don't want that. So knight takes d4 is the way. h6 is very poor. It has no independent value. We could castle, but I think this is so poor we have to punish it. d4. ed knight d4, knight f6, knight c3, and we have included bishop c4 and h6, and otherwise played the so-called the scotch, the 4-knight scotch, but of course this inclusion is huge for us. After bishop b4, take, castle, e5, suddenly the knight doesn't have a good square, and black is much worse. h6 is very poor. Now in bishop c5, before we go to bishop c5, we should look, or knight f6, we should look also at d6. The idea is basically black will most likely get back to knight f6, bishop e7 setup. Again, avoiding this knight g5, which we don't play. So I propose to play it simple, castle, bishop e7. Knight f6 also, he has to deal with knight g5. So bishop e7. And now d4 is most principled, but it's actually not simple at all. After, I believe, knight f6 first. After knight f6, because I've seen bishop g4 as well in this position sometimes. But knight f6 first is the best. Not so easy actually to crack. If we advance, we gain space, but position gets very closed. We don't want that. These are specific type of positions where black in the long run has these f5 ideas. It's not so simple. So I propose to just try and transpose to our repertoire, but we should be careful. We shouldn't go d3 because that allows knight a5. Suddenly bishop is caught for a trade. So we should go a4 first. That's very clever. If knight f6, now d3, we transpose to knight f6 d3 setup that I'll look at in a separate chapter, castle knight c3. This position is discussed in great detail in that chapter. If not knight f6 but f5, in fact a4 comes in quite useful after d3, f4 and b4. Pawns are joined, and next we want to play b5. Let's say after g5, go b5, knight a5, bishop just drops back, and after g4, knight e1, we will strike in the center with g4, and black overexposed himself here. He's way too ambitious, having not developed the knight, and with the king in the center and the other knight at the edge of the board. These two pawns are not going to do us any damage. This is just too ambitious and unsound. And if you accept the pawn sack with knight b4, we'll go d4. You have quite some issues here in the center. So actually a4, yeah, very clever, very rare, obviously a very rare move, but very smart. Just trying to transpose to our repertoire. In bishop c5, c3, knight f6, d3 is our Italian, but I should mention one sideline, that is d6. Here, if we play d3, we give him some extra options, maybe with some queen f6 or whatnot. That's why I propose d4, which is also the punishment. This would just be free center. Knight comes out, castle, and so on. So he should go bishop b6, and now d. Taking the pawn loses one, because f7 hangs and e5 hangs. So best is to go bishop g4, and Van Foreest once played it. In fact, after e d6, things get quite messy with knight f6. White is better, of course, but things do get messy. I propose simple move bishop b5, forcing him to take. Now just knight d2. And this position is very interesting. I've seen the structures in other e4, e5 systems. And so one important nuance is that knight on c6 is dominated by the c3 pawn, as always. And the other is that black's pieces are totally misplaced. His bishop needs to be on this diagonal. So after h3, it has to go back, because on h5, it's out of play. This bishop on b6 is also odd. It's better located on d6, because it would support the e5 pawn and allow for knight to leave c6 via e7 or via b8. And now with bishop on b6, yeah, the knight on c6 is stuck protecting the e5 pawn. Knight on g8 is yet to develop. Somehow black has a very bad version of these pawn structures, and position is just very poor for him. And also symmetrical, so there's no fun. At least ed knight f6, there is some fun there. He is up in development. But bishop b5 is just killing it. So that's for bishop c5 sideline, and there is one sideline after knight f6 d3. We look at bishop c5, bishop e7, and h6 in separate chapters. d6 obviously is bad because of knight g5. But there is one more line here that is d5. That is not so bad, surprisingly. After ed knight d5 castle, well, black has to play it very modestly, actually. If he tries to go for bishop c5, he has some kind of terrible Italian. We just go to q1, and yeah, we have this position with c3 castle included. Without that, after rook e1, he just has an issue here on e5. So this is very bad. Bishop g4. It's possible rook e1. Bishop e7. We'll look at that in a second after bishop e7. Move order here. And then bishop g4. Bishop g4, rook e1. There was also bishop b4 move. But that was very, very weird. We could just play bishop d2, let's say, and black is black has played d5 far too premature, and is going to struggle defending the e5 pawn. Also c3, forcing bishop e7 is just gives us a very good version of these positions. Bishop e7 is best, rook e1, and now if bishop g4 here, we play h3. And after bishop h5, g4, bishop g6, knight e5, knight e5, rook e5, c6. Yeah, black doesn't have enough compensation as he hasn't even castled yet. Instead, the best attempt is to play 7 f6. And this has been played by Paravan once, Grandmaster Paravan from Russia against Esipenko in, I believe, a serious game. And here I propose a challenging little idea, d4, opening the center right away. And this is a pawn sacrifice. Knight b6 is the reply, bishop b3. Now black can take on d4 in two ways, but he has to take with the knight. If he takes with the pawn, we play a4. It's very clever. He cannot castle, so we use that to challenge his knights with a5. And if he goes a5, which is very tempting, creates a weakness here. And after knight a3 followed by knight b5, he's totally busted. The king cannot castle, and knight b5 followed by bishop f4 is very bad news. A5, a4 inclusion is quite neutral. If anything, it's in our favor, I believe. Knight d4, queen d4, ed, bishop f4 is an endgame we'll look at without a5, a4, but here bishop takes c7 comes with a threat to the knight, so this is very good for white. King d7 is only move, then we go knight d2, and eventually we'll get to this pawn, and black has to be very accurate to survive with the king so misplaced. So knight d4 is made, knight d4, and now queen d4. Ed is obviously bad, queen h5, and the king is in a great deal of trouble. Queen d4, ed, and now even in the endgame after bishop f4 we have quite some initiative. King in the center is still... well, king in the center is good in the endgames as long as enough pieces are traded and the king is safe. But when there are so many bishops eyeing at all these diagonals and so many pieces coming towards the center, then of course king in the center is still an issue, because I would say this is not really an endgame, it's a queenless middle game. So king in the center is a problem. King d7 is therefore dangerous after knight d2. Bishop f5 is safer. Now we just recapture the pawn. Now bishop 7, king d7, bishop back, rook a8, and now rook d1. Reminding black of the d4 weakness. If bishop c2, we have rook d4. Then knight c3. King once again is in danger. We'll activate the other rook. Bishop c5, move 15 is the more cunning attempt to equalize. And now we can include a4, a5, and send the knight towards b5. Via a3 or c3, I like c3. Why not? Using the pin. And next is knight b5, and black has to still solve his issue with the king on d7. And we enjoy small pressure. I believe this move, d4, is a nice new idea to challenge those who try this rare new system that I have previously not seen before. I believe this pretty much covered alternatives on move 3, alternatives to bishop c5 and knight f6. Also, after bishop c5, we covered this extra option with d6, and after knight f6, we covered the extra option of d5. Should now be well equipped. All the sidelines are covered. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next chapter.